what's up guys, BoHD here. Hope you guys are doing well. Now this is the OnePlus N10 5G. This is OnePlus's newest phone that just was launched in North America. And without even opening the box, getting into it, I believe this is the future of OnePlus. What this phone stands for, what it embodies, I think is definitely here to stay. And I'm not exactly sure how I feel about that. But I don't want to jump the gun. Let's go ahead, use our trusty unboxing knife, get inside and see what this phone's all about. Okay, so the contents of the box are gonna look a lot like any other OnePlus device. What doesn't feel like a OnePlus device though is the hardware. It doesn't feel particularly premium like a OnePlus flagship phone. It doesn't have any sort of real major character to it. There's a metal frame, glass front, and plastic back. Now, I can't knock it too much for these design choices because it's a sub $300 phone with 5G. Say what you will about 5G, but it's clear that the Nord N10's claim to fame is support for 5G and for being under $300. The caveat is that it will only connect to sub 6 gigahertz 5G networks, which are only marginally faster than LTE at this time, and it doesn't support the high-speed millimeter wave-based 5G networks that you see on Verizon. And furthermore, the N10 5G only works on LTE at AT&T and not with that carrier's 5G network. So basically, it only supports 5G from T-Mobile or a discount carrier that uses T-Mobile's towers. So definitely important to consider if you pick up this phone. And because 5G comes at a premium, you need a relatively newer chipset to support it, such as the Snapdragon 690 chipset. And so OnePlus had to make compromises to get the overall phone under $300. Obviously, the design fits into the compromises column, as does the 6.49-inch LCD display, which doesn't get particularly bright, and it's starting to show its age compared to OLED-equipped smartphones. The performance also isn't particularly great because it's being powered by a mid-tier chipset. There's no waterproofing, and some of the lenses seem like they're just there to fluff up the specs. For example, the monochrome and macro lenses look nice on paper, but in reality, they don't offer too much value. There's also only one guaranteed system update, which is a pretty big bummer. So it sounds like a lot of negativity, but now I get to talk about what's to like. We get a 90 Hz refresh rate on the display, something that the new iPhones don't even offer. And while the display's vibrancy and colors won't look as nice as, say, an OLED display, at least content will appear smoother and more responsive, and that really does make a difference. And I mentioned the sort of lackluster hardware. One perk about this change is that it does support a micro SD card slot for expandable storage, something you don't really see too often nowadays. The battery life appears really strong upon first impressions. It's packing a 4,300 milliamp hour cell, and it supports Warp Charge 30, which can charge the phone up to 50% in around 30 minutes. That's pretty awesome. And lastly, I know I kind of downplayed the camera sensors, but having all these different sensors lets you capture your subjects in all sorts of different ways. It does improve the versatility of this smartphone. You have a 64 megapixel main f1.8 sensor. You have an 8 megapixel ultra wide, 2 megapixel depth, and 2 megapixel macro lens just on the rear. Meanwhile, the selfie camera consists of a 16 megapixel f2.1 lens. So the OnePlus Nord N10 5G does a great job offering a relatively new feature, support for 5G, as well as some other decent specs and features for $300. And as much as I love ultra premium OnePlus phones like the OnePlus 8 Pro, which is my favorite phone of 2020, I believe the future of OnePlus is the Nord line. We're seeing Samsung and Apple really control the high-end market and even start to dominate the $500 smartphone space. That's causing OnePlus to have to adapt and focus their attention on the budget segment with the Nord N10 5G, the N10 or the N100, and presumably other Nord devices coming later this year. Those $300 give or take 5G phones will allow OnePlus to partner with carriers more easily because there's quite simply more demand and less supply of cheap 5G phones. Samsung's Galaxy and Apple iPhone line already have strong relationships with carriers like Verizon and T-Mobile, but a sub $400 phone with 5G is definitely more enticing, and the big carriers don't currently offer a device that really fits the bill. So that's where OnePlus comes in with the Nord line and devices like this one right here. Now, what I hope doesn't happen is OnePlus completely abandoning their high-end flagships, because I still have a sweet spot for OnePlus's Oxygen OS software and, of course, their hardware, their high-end hardware specifically. But realistically, I do see them returning to their roots and offering enticing $300 to $400 devices like devices we see in the Nord lineup, especially considering that they've sort of alienated many of their loyal customers with the OnePlus 8 line that had price tags mirroring Apple and Samsung devices. I mean, offering a 5G phone like the Nord N10 for $300, it really is just bittersweet, because I love to see them return to the roots and offer a compelling budget device, but I'm going to miss many of their high-end offerings if they do indeed decide to choose to focus more on the low to mid-range devices. With that said, I'm gonna leave it at that. Let me know your thoughts on this device down below in the comments. As always, I'm BoHD from Slash.tv. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you right back here in the next one. See ya.